Hey everyone, Aquatrist here. After the Yakuza Kiwami video did surprisingly better than I expected, massive thank you to that, I wanted to make a follow-up video about limited run games as a whole, and while I feel like they're not a terrible company per se, I think they've been on a slight decline for the past year or so, and I want to talk about the current state of them and what's been going on. Now, full disclaimer, I'm not bashing the company. Again, I'd like to work there someday. I support their efforts in terms of game preservation, because without them, we wouldn't have all these awesome other companies producing indie games in the physical market, like I Am 8-Bit, Strictly Limited, Super Rare, you name it. Just this awesome opportunity to allow indie developers and sometimes AAA developers to have their games be preserved so they're not locked onto the digital storefronts. So when they inevitably shut down, like what happened with the Xbox 360 and the eShop, you can just have a way of playing them many years from now. And we owe a lot to Limited Run, regardless of what we think of them. And it's nice to see Limited Run expanding into game development with the Carbon engine. Just seeing games like Shantae from the Game Boy Color or Clock Tower Rewind. Seeing these legacy titles just being ported and easily accessible on modern consoles, I feel like that's a really strong angle that they definitely are doing a good job on. And while making this video, I polled everyone on YouTube to say, hey, what do you think of Limited Run games nowadays? And surprisingly, most people thought, yeah, they're fine, they're okay, but they could be better. And it's like, wow, after all the stuff they've done, almost 10 years old as a company, and yeah, their reputation's definitely changed, and it's kind of disappointing. But to see where Limited Run stands now, we have to take a look back at how they were in their humble beginnings. They were founded in 2015, so not even 10 years old as a company. I remember first hearing about Limited Run around this time when Metal Jesus Rocks made a video talking about them. Just sharing about Breach and Clear, how it's like, yeah, like this development studio, Mighty Rabbit, some people from it just took the game and they got to release it physically on the PS Vita for people to play. It's like, oh, cool, underground title, indie game, very limited quantities. And, they were making it as just a way of just preserving this game to allow people to play it and to see what their hard work resulted into. Now, keep this philosophy in mind because they definitely changed throughout the years, and you'll see why. And then flash forward a few years, when I started really paying attention to Limited Run and buying from them was when they finally expanded to Switch into 2018, Even at this time, like 3 years in, Limited Run games definitely felt special. When they released a new game, it felt like an event. It was rare and just super exciting. That's probably why a lot of these earlier release titles, especially like Shantae and the Pirate's Curse, are still going for hundreds of dollars on eBay because they're really, number one, very limited. This was right before they switched over to the open pre-order model. But number two, they were just some of the coolest indie games to be preserved physically, and some of the first to be preserved physically, in the mainstream before it was just like, okay, you could either be at a retail store like Best Buy, GameStop, or whatever, or you're just locked to a digital storefront. Limited Run games provided developers a third path to say, hey, this is an alternative. So if you can't afford, or if you're unable to release at a Best Buy, GameStop, whatever, you can release it through us. And that's awesome. And again, that's another philosophy I want you to carry on throughout this video because it definitely hits different nowadays. And as Limited Run games was slowly growing in their early years and, just becoming more popular, releasing all these cool games, they released Celeste when the Farewell DLC came out around 2019. I still think this is one of the best releases they've ever done almost 6 years later. I know Fangamer just re-released it a couple years ago now, and that's great. I'm glad that this is, not as expensive for people to buy. This game changed the lives of people. So many people. And the fact that this got released at all just shows that they cared. Limited Run wanted to preserve this in a way where people could just cherish it and have it on the shelf and be like, hey, I own this. This matters to me. Open it up. Beautiful. Awesome trading card. Great manual. It's just chef's kiss. And then in 2021, we got another banger Limited Run game. You got Scott Pilgrim vs. the World Complete Edition, which, the game's fine, but I love Scott Pilgrim as a whole. For those of you who know, it's one of my favorite movies. I love the Scott Pilgrim Takes Off anime. that came out last year. That was really cool. Just seeing this like once long delisted game that I wanted to play for so long and be like, damn, it's gone forever, isn't it? Nope. Limited Run's got you back. It's back in full swing and physical, so when the eShop dies, this game won't. It's just, yes. This is what Limited Run still stands for today, and I really appreciate them for that. However, in 2022, I've started to notice Limited Run shifting to more AAA titles, and I wouldn't say that's really a bad thing. I remember Doom 2016 easily got a retail physical. This one got canceled, and it took 2 to 3 years for this to finally release. But like, thank God, yes, I can finally play Doom Eternal on my Switch, on the cartridge. Oh, there's no DLC on it. Great. 2 red flags right there. 1, not all the content's on cartridge anymore for all the limited run releases, which that's become a controversy of its own. And number 2, this is starting to be a trend where a lot of these AAA developers are looking to limited run for their physical releases. It represents a shift in the market of a lot of these physical games being, less available and less in demand. So it's like, it's becoming more niche. We're going to take advantage of that and make it more niche to get them, as digital games are becoming more mainstream. Now, I know these licensing costs aren't cheap, but they've been bleeding into their modern releases. There are 2 limited run games I want to talk about in particular that I've been really disappointed with. So first off, Contra Operation Galuga. Now, let's look at this for a second. This is absolutely embarrassing. Look at how thin this is. Absolutely ridiculous. Now, I'm not saying this is a bad game or anything. WayForward has been putting out banger after banger over the last few years, with Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp, the River City Girls games, and the Shantae entries. I eventually want to collect all the WayForward games released on Switch. Yes, even the very expensive Pirates Curse. I know I'm insane, because they've quickly become one of my favorite indie developers, and I want to support them as much as I can. They've been a longtime partner with limited run games, so this was pretty much inevitable to see release. Especially since, hey, it's on PS4 and Xbox, so let's just put it on Switch too, why not? They produce some of the most well-animated hand-drawn art, banging soundtracks, and colorful characters, alongside other indie juggernauts like Devolver Digital and Supergiant. Operation Galuga, however, was a big departure from that. Not that it's a bad thing, they developed the cult classic Contra 4 back on the DS, and this seems to be a spiritual successor to that game. But the 2.5D visuals and the choppy 30 FPS don't really do the game justice. As a WayForward title and a new Contra entry, it's good to see this game get supported by companies outside of the main developers. However, because this just runs better on PS4 and Xbox, it just doesn't really run great, and I kind of wish they just canceled the Switch release. And the other one that I'm very disappointed in is Lollipop Chainsaw RePOP. I love No More Heroes, one of my favorite games. I love Super 51. I met him earlier this year. When I heard about this game getting remastered on Switch, I was just super excited. It's like, oh my god, another game from his gamography. I have to check it out. I'm buying the physical. Let's go. It runs at 20 FPS bad. That's why I still have this copy still. It's like, I don't know. I'm excited I have this, but is it really worth owning if it still runs bad and they haven't patched it? Okay, so this just came out a few days after I initially recorded that footage, and this game did get patched. So if you scroll down from the CEO of Jogami Games, Yoshimi Yatsuda, the latest update file for Switch version of Lollipop Chainsaw RePOP, which includes improvements to the frame rate and bug fixes, has been released. And these are the ones that he's talking about. Optimized processing of scenes in 45 locations, and adjusted the number of zombies appearing simultaneously in some scenes, and a bunch of bugs have been fixed. This is great, and now we can finally play this game. However, the issue with this is, you're not going to be able to play this 10 years from now when the eShop closes, because Limited Run didn't wait until the game got patched to release their physical copy. So when the only way to play this game on Switch will be physical, you're going to be ending up playing a broken version of the game, unlike Celeste, where they waited an extra year to include the Farewell DLC on cartridge, so you didn't have to worry about extra downloads. It doesn't help that they come in this basic ass packaging you can get from UPS, and I know that it's been like this for a while, but like, I have to constantly check the address and just be like, oh, that's my Limited Run Games game, cool, instead of just being like, wait, what even is this? It's just really stupid. I wish they could have like a dedicated Limited Run Games envelope like they've done for some of the boxes. That'd be nice. And now Yakuza Kiwami 2 got announced just a couple weeks after Kiwami 1 came out on Switch before the physicals even shipped. nowhere in a Switch port or version. They just went straight into production. They've done this before when they started doing Xbox, releasing games such as Quake and Doom 64, which are previously only on Switch and PlayStation. It's great that these exist, and they're going to pump these out sooner rather than later. Most of these should be out to give people enough time to build the collection before Yakuza 9 and more titles come out in the series. However, if you want to collect all 7 classic editions of these games, you're going to be spending over $400 on them. My God! Granted, these seem like solid versions and they'll be spaced out to give your wallet some breathing room, but if you can only afford so many games at a time, it's frustrating. I wish they could confirm if these other games were coming to Switch or Switch 2 eventually. I know they legally can't because either A, they're not in production yet, or B, the new console isn't even out so they can't talk about that, but it would give me a nice peace of mind knowing, okay, I don't have to double dip on these PlayStation 4 versions because I can just simply wait for Switch 2. And that's likely happening due to how well Yakuza Kiwami has been selling on Switch recently. On a more positive note, Limited Run Games has been improving their presence at conventions. Over the last couple years, they've expanded their normal lineup of PAX East and West, debuting at Portland Retro Gaming Expo, New York Comic Con, and San Diego Comic Con. Even if you don't care about buying anything while at these booths, there's always new incentives to go there. They've introduced game demos such as Clock Tower Rewind and Rugrats Adventures in Gameland. These are a great opportunity to try a game you're on the fence about before making the full plunge into buying its physical. Limited Run has also hosted incredible autograph signings, especially the one with Matt and Aaron Bozon, the creators of the Shantae series. Furman and I got the opportunity to do this at PAX West, and we're grateful for that. Although the lineup of games to buy at these booths isn't perfect, there are some of the best things to come out of Limited Run despite the controversies, and I always look forward to them every time I go to a PAX. Let's talk about the Soho pop-up store in New York City that opened up recently. I'd say it's pretty cool. You know, I've never been myself. I can't. It's too far away from me, but that's besides the point. Based on this video footage, it seems cool. They have all these awesome games, so it's like, hey, if you missed out on the online pre-orders, you can get them at the store. But here's the issue with that, right? A lot of these games were just available like to pre-order months ago and they're at the store. So it's like, okay, if you want to like get something from Limited Run Games and you're unsure if you're wanting to spend the money now or want to order it now and pay for shipping, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be available someplace else very soon down the road, especially if it releases close to a PAX or another event. That's what happened with Contra Operation Galuga. I almost canceled my pre-order because I'm like, wait a minute, they have a convention variant of this that's literally going to be there before my copy ships in the mail. So it's like, what's the point of even doing that? I just wasted $5 on shipping. And I get it, you know, it's great to have both options, especially for those who can't go to these conventions and events, and that's totally fine. But it kind of ruins the brand of Limited Run Games for me. It's like, they're not as limited as they used to be, and I don't want them to be, but I feel like they should change their name to like Unlimited Run Games, if that makes sense. And finally, here's some 3 red flags I wanted to point out with the store because it's not really terrible, but I had to mention them. Number 1, Doom Eternal exclusive variant. Strike! It makes sense because, you know, Dark Ages is coming out next year, but it's like, okay, like you still don't have the DLC on cartridge? You're still not selling that separately? Okay, alright, I mean, I guess it's bias talking, but let's move on to something even worse. Lollipop Chainsaw store variant. Strike! I said this earlier, the game runs like ass. Why are you making a physical of it at the store? I get it, I understand it for PlayStation. But for Switch, you're putting Yakuza Kiwami 2 and 0 on Xbox and PlayStation and not Switch, but you're putting this on Switch. Okay, great. And finally, Contra Operation Galuga PAX West variant spotted. Strike! Batter out! They lied to us! This was the only exclusive they had at PAX West this year, and they're like, nah, we're not gonna make an exclusive. Here you go. It's like, you kidding me? I mean, it's a really cool, like, variant. You know, I don't care about the variants personally. You know, I forget the main character's name on the cover art of this one. You know, when I saw Furman had in his video, I was like, oh, missing out because this is super cool, but, you know, it's okay. And finally, to wrap up this video, let's discuss Limited Run Games' future in 2025 and beyond. As of this video, the only major releases from them that we know of for next year are Bubsy and the Perfect Collection, Shantae Advanced Risky Revolution, G.I. Joe Wrath the Cobra, Fear Effect, and of course, Gex Trilogy, the one we've all been waiting for. All these games were shown off at the LRG3 show back in June of this year, so hopefully we'll be seeing them very soon. It's going to be interesting to see what other indie, AA, and AAA games Limited Run helps distribute next year, alongside opening pre-orders for Yakuza 3, 4, and 5 Remastered alongside 6. Of course, they'll still be distributing their physicals for indie games like they're doing for Chicory, but when the Switch 2 releases, presumably next year, then that poses the interesting question. Is Limited Run Games going to do what they do for PlayStation and just keep releasing physicals for Switch 1 and Switch 2? Or are they going to quickly drop Switch 1 entirely and just focus on Switch 2? Or are they just going to keep doing Switch 1 for the first year and maybe adopt Switch 2 at a later date? We'll have to wait and see. But regardless, it seems like their overall pre-order structure and business model won't be changing anytime soon. But yeah, those are my overall thoughts about Limited Run games nowadays. Again, I don't think they're terrible, but they definitely have a lot of improving to do. I think if they want to live up to their namesake while still making their games accessible, I definitely think they need to double down more on their indie games and allow other indie game companies like, again, Fangamer, which has been killing it with Little Kitty Big City, Pizza Tower, Anton Blast. All those are getting exclusive releases with Fangamer, and I'm very happy about that. We need more competition in this market, and I feel like if Limited Run's taking all the goodies, like all the big budget, way forward, the AA, AAA, physical exclusive releases, there's not going to be much left for these other companies like Super Rare, and that's a shame. But what do you think of Limited Run games? Let me know in the comments down below. Be sure to like this video, share this video, and subscribe if you want to see more content like this, whether if it's commentary or Limited Run games. Anyways, thank you for watching. Have a good one. Bye.